So it's January 18th, 2020. This is the first video that I'll be making this year. And I haven't done a video in a while because I've just been really tired from busy season. We just had our first kid as well. And it's been really awesome just to kind of stay off of social media. But today I'm going to be focusing on spawn. This is our beginning of 2020, and we're actually doing a couple different things with spawn. So today I want to go over some grain spawn techniques that I'm going to be following you guys throughout the year, but I also want to go over how we do our sawdust spawn with hardwood fuel pellets. All that's coming out in this video. Okay, so let's talk about hardwood fuel pellet spawn. This is typically what we've been doing for the last couple of years. This is 2.5 pounds of hardwood fuel pellets. And we use a brand called Canowick. I have that over here. Just want to make sure it doesn't have any glues or adhesives in the product, just all natural hardwood. So all of our spawn for the last 2 to 3 years has been mostly these hardwood fuel pellets. However, we're starting to notice certain strains struggle to digest hardwood fuel pellets as a substrate, and I'm going to get into why we're moving into grain spawn this year. But first, let's focus on the hardwood fuel pellets. So we like to do about 2.5 pounds and just over 3 pounds of water. So it's about a 5.5 pound bag at about 55% moisture. We've noticed we want to go a little bit lighter on the moisture with the pellets. If it's too wet, the mycelium's just not going to want to colonize, and we're better off to go on a little bit on the drier side. So we just do this by hand, and I get a cup in here, and we do 3 cups of water and add it into here, and it's roughly going to be about a 5.5 pound bag. And then that gets folded over and loaded into our sterilizer. I'm going to show you guys a new folding technique that we've been working on that's really working great as well. I've been playing around with grain spawn. All I could ever get my hands on was rye, and I always ran into problems with rye. So I've heard oats can be a little bit better to work with because it's waxier. So I've sourced out some whole oats. And millet, I'm really excited to start working with, and I've been trying to find millet for years, and I just kind of gave up, and I happened to be able to track some down. So with our grain spawn, what we've noticed in the past is that we have problems during colonization, and the bags are often getting mold, and that might be from overheating, it might be from being too hydrated, or maybe we soaked too long. There's a lot of things going on that can be finicky with grain spawn, and it could also be the grain type. So I had to kind of get a second opinion, and I contacted TR Davis from Earth Angel Mushrooms, and I'll leave a link just at the top of the channel here if you guys don't know TR, but I'm sure most of you do. And I wanted to kind of have an expert opinion on a direction that we should go for doing grain spawn, so that I can make a real educated guess for this year. So I'm not going to really get into the details on how TR does it, but from the consultation I had with him and from the available materials that we have here, we are going to try a few things today. And really the goal is we're trying to do a quick hydration, and we're trying to use grains that maybe are a little bit more forgiving. So we have some millet, and millet can be hard to hydrate, and it might be hard to get this at the right moisture content. So we're going to do straight millet, but we're also going to do a 50-50 mix with millet and whole oats, and we're also going to do a batch with just oats. We're going to do 3 different trials, and we're going to actually soak this in hot water. So I got my boilers boiling back there right now. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to pour hot water into a bucket here. And I've had these sitting around here for years. This is from an old cold lime pasteurization technique, these buckets that I've designed here. And I haven't really used these in a while, but this is going to be great for figuring out how to make this work for us. So we have a screen on the bottom. Fill this bucket with hot water. Put the grain in this bucket, and we're just going to put it in there and let it hydrate. And then I want this to stay warm, So just for the purpose of this experiment, we're going to put it in our sterilizer here, and I have a lid, put the lid on, and I even have some polyisocyanate panels that I'm just going to put on top here. And I'm actually going to feed steam from our boiler into this unit just to keep this hot. And we're trying to keep a temperature around 170 Fahrenheit or higher inside the bucket for about 1 hour. And this is something that TR has been working on. So we're trying to bring temperature up and really just kind of hydrate the grain kernels quickly. And the key that I can see here, just from talking to TR, is that we're not over soaking the grain. We're not allowing bacteria to establish. As we get warmer in the summer, this is really important. You can't really soak in colder temperatures too much. Like you can't over soak it and worry about bacteria fermenting because you don't have the warm temperatures. But in the summer, this is a big problem, and this is something we've always seen. But for now, we're trying to just show that we can get a good hydration. And all we're going to do is, after that 1 hour, I'm just going to take this bucket just out here, and it's going to self-drain. And I'm going to dump it on this table here. I'm going to mix in about 1% gypsum, and that's going to help keep the grain kernels separated so they don't really stick together. But I think it's also going to help with distributing moisture a little bit better because you're not going to have that clumping. And we are going to bag 6-pound bags, fold it, and put it right in the steamer. And we are sterilizing our sawdust spawn and our grain spawn today. And we're going to sterilize that above 200 Fahrenheit for over 18 hours. And this is where I'm not sure if it's going to work. We've done a successful 18-hour steam with our hardwood fuel pellets. Last year we were doing 2-hour steam, and we were running into problems with a lot of different molds we've never seen. And I didn't realize that how crucial the 18-hour steam was, even just for pellets, which doesn't have any nutrition. And over the years, we used to do 18-hour steam with our rye grain, but we ran into a lot of mold problems. And I think the key factor here is that we were just letting it sit in water for days and letting it hydrate, and we were having more bacteria in our grain, and then our sterilizers were not able to effectively kill everything. So by doing this quick 1 hour hydration, the warm water is going to help it hydrate really quick. And by getting in the steamer with the 18-hour steam, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of success. And the key to this is we're using strains that really struggle on our sawdust. So that's strains like Piapino, Pink Oyster, Chestnut. We're focusing those hard-growing strains on this grain spawn, and I'll throw in a couple fast-growing oyster mushrooms. And I want to really just see over the next month to 6 to 8 weeks on different batches if we can make this work. So to make sure I get the temperature where I need it to be, I bought this really nice compost thermometer. This is huge. We're talking 3 feet. These aren't cheap. That's about $200. And the key is that if I can get this to work, we're going to come up with a way on our farm to do bulk, and we'll be able to use this thermometer to do maybe like a deeper temperature reading. We might be using these bins or something like that, or we might be using a combination of these buckets. I'm not sure yet. But the point of this video is I want to show you guys what we're working on today, and then we're going to document and run through what's working and what's not, and try to figure out a real good direction for doing spawn. So nothing fancy, these 3 red cups of water. I'm going to let this hydrate, and then I'm going to show you guys the fold we're doing. So I'm going to show you guys the fold for these hardwood fuel pellets. And we started doing this because we transport all our bags outside, and they're getting exposed to unclean air, especially in the summer. So you want to make sure that the bag's vacuum sealed and have a really nice fold. So we came up with this double fold, and I had Brad Coons on my farm here building this porcini mushroom oven, and we were doing that in September, and he kind of showed us this folding technique that he likes, but we modified it to work for us, and one of my employees, Clay, he actually came up with this. So all we're doing is I fold with the filter patch towards me, and I just pop in the gussets. We do a nice press just like that, and then all we're doing is we're just folding over that so that there's like a fold tucked in underneath, and we just press it down just a little bit, and that's it. This gets loaded into the sterilizer. We actually load these upside down so that the water that we poured in here will then kind of trickle back to the top of the bag and fully hydrate these pellets. So I'm going to get all this done, and then we're going to move on to grain spawn. Okay, so next we're going to do grain spawn. So I'm going to be doing, like I mentioned previous, I'm going to be doing oats, I'm going to be doing millet, and I'm going to be doing an oat millet. And we're going to take water from our boiler, and we're going to heat these up and do a 1 hour soak above 170 Fahrenheit. So let's get into it. So oat is going to be similar to rye, but it's a little bit more waxier. So the water is actually going to run off of this. So I'm hoping this won't actually overhydrate, which is what I've seen with rye in the past. What I'm really excited about is this millet. And I've never used millet before. But millet is very common in mushroom spawn, and what's great about it is you get all these little grain kernels, so you get a lot of inoculation points. And the millet, we're going to probably try to get it to hydrate and almost burst a little bit. So most of these are probably going to be bursting from the hot water, and then we're going to sterilize it. And from what I've heard, just by even just talking to TR Davis, that is what you're actually looking for. So a little bit of bursting kernels in either the oats or the millet is going to be just fine. So we're going to try to do an even mix. So I've just tared out my grain scoop here on my scale, and roughly do 50-50. So we have about 9 pounds of the mix of the oats and millet, and about a third of the bucket is what we're looking to fill this dried, and it's probably gonna expand quite a bit once we heat it up with hot water. So I'm just gonna match the other two buckets just by volume. Okay, so I'm going to go fill these up with hot water and we'll get these soaking for 1 hour. So about 20 minutes in and we're hovering about 160. I had to put the lids on because it is pretty cold out here. So I'm just going to take some more boiling water out of these boilers and probably dump out a little bit of the water that's in here and just warm them up, get the temperature back up, throw the lids back on, and see if we can get that temperature to stabilize. So we're about 40 minutes into the steam, and I've taken this one step further. The really nice thing about our sterilization unit is we can shut down each of these barrels as we see fit. So I've restricted the steam from these 3 barrels, and I really can't restrict it anymore because there's so much pressure now coming out of these 2 boilers that I don't want there to be any damage. But the lids are on the 3 very far tanks are on loose, and all that excess steam is just steaming out. So I'm going to pop off the lid and we'll see if we're hovering around that 170 Fahrenheit temperature. So really happy with that. We're really close to about 170 Fahrenheit, and all I had to do was just get a little bit more steam pressure in these tanks and get this clamp on the lid just loosely fitting so we can really trap in a lot of steam. So, you know, it's really cold outside right now, but able to work with this. So I really like the flexibility of making this happen, and we can expand on this idea and maybe still do the bucket idea and get our wine bin totes here, which are our wine bin sterilizers, and we can fill this up with buckets and then wrap the tanks up with our insulation panels. And I'll do another video on that as we start to figure out how to bulk this spawn idea up. But for the time being, this is a great experiment, and we're going to see how this grows out over the next couple of weeks. So I'm not even going to worry about really weighing this gypsum. It's 1% of, you know, what is this? This is probably 10 pounds dry, 9 pounds dry here. So really it's just, you know, it's so little, just like a little sprinkle. Then we're just going to mix this in. But this is really nice and hydrated. So far I'm actually really impressed with this. I've worked with grain a lot, and I usually soak for 24 hours when I'm doing grain jars, and I bring it to a boil and strain it, And in the past, I've done like a cold lime hydration, which takes 2 to 3 days. And I've even tried dry bagging by just adding water and pellets and then sterilizing it that way. But this is fully hydrated. What's really nice is that it's super hot and all that surface moisture is actually going to steam off. So I actually wasn't expecting to see this fully hydrated. I thought maybe this would be really wet, and then when I sterilized this, it was going to soak up that extra water. But from what I'm seeing right here, all that excess surface moisture is just going to steam right off, and this is already fully hydrated. So I'm really hopeful that this is actually going to be a huge success for us. So I'll keep you guys posted. Well, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I think a big takeaway is that everyone is always learning in this industry, and there's always new things to discover, and it really pays to communicate with other mushroom growers and really build that network. And even, you know, I'm like 8-9 years in now, and I am still always learning. So this is something that's really new for our business. I actually stopped doing grain for about 3 years because I had a lot of problems, and we needed just to focus on the profitability of our business. So we switched to sawdust, and we really, you know, had a lot of success over the years with that, and we were comfortable, but there were some weaknesses with using sawdust over grain. So now we're revisiting it, and I really hope you guys like this idea because I think it's going to work so well for my business. I'll keep you guys posted. We'll catch you in the next one.